Welcome to Mentorship Live, and today we have Monica McNeal joining us. I was privileged to meet Monica as part of she was a program manager of the Military Spouse Technology Academy the year after I graduated, and just got to know her and her heart for serving others and helping with job search. So I'm thrilled to have her today. And also we have Anthony Garcia, who is he joins as a co-host every week, but I should say, I should have let you say, Monica, do you want to introduce yourself and give a little bit more detail before, then I'll do the same for Anthony.
Yeah, I guess I best describe myself as a mom. Was my most important job I've ever had, and still have. And I have, I hate when I have to say this, I guess it's now 35 plus years of experience in the workforce. I had an unbelievable career of 24 years at Nordstrom and did the Cinderella story, started part-time sales. And when I walked out the doors, I was the vice president the last 6 years. And then I got recruited away and worked for a wholesale company, which is pretty common transition from retail to wholesale. And I took a couple VP jobs in the sales area and then commuted to New York for almost 4 years from Seattle. That was interesting. I've been working remote basically or hybrid for 14 years. And then one day my husband thought it'd be really cool if maybe I got a job nearby, and then I get a job in Portland, and I commuted to Portland for 2 years. But I was really cool and hip. For those of you who know Portland, I had an apartment in the Pearl District, and I was really cool and hip. And I would go down on Mondays and usually come home Thursday night or Fridays. And then decided to leave all that crazy fun fashion behind and really spend my time in the military family community. And started with 4Block as a nonprofit and taught career development with Columbia University. And Anthony, that's where I met you, and did that for almost 5 years and ended up being like the national ops or whatever person, but loved the career development piece. And then did a couple other stints in the nonprofit space, mostly in career development, and then volunteer a ton of my time. I was telling Jackie, in 2020, I coached 320 different veterans on various platforms. And then also last year, 270 different veterans or mil spouses. So kind of just get myself around. Honestly, I can say I'm easing my way into retirement. So that's kind of where my head's at, but I always want to continue to give back. So I love this space. The military spouse, I do not identify, but I was once upon a time married to a Marine. But I do not identify that. It was a time in my life. I've had a beautiful child. That's all I share. So it was part of my story.
And then Anthony, you want to update us a little bit on what's going on here in your world?
Yeah. I've been fortunate to meet Jacqueline and Monica years ago when I lived in Seattle. Going from construction to technology to now consulting, it's been an interesting ride. Now I'm on the business owner side, and I get to hire and evaluate candidates that come across. So it gives me a whole different perspective than I had before. It's kind of narrowed down some things for me as far as what's needed from a candidate, maybe what's not. So what I like to do is, one, I used to do this for free as a passion project in Seattle. And now that I've got out, I reconnected with Jacqueline, and I get to add a different context to job seekers, because now I am reviewing resumes, and I am spending that, you read that thing about recruiters spending 9 seconds on a resume. Well, it's not necessarily 9, but it's pretty fast, and it happens all day long. And it just, now I get to come on here and tell you just a little bit more about what I experienced as an owner and what I used to advise people on when I wasn't in that seat.
Awesome. So today we are talking about finding employment opportunities and not doing it alone. And I really love the tail end of that, and not doing it alone, because we often find ourselves in this job search situation feeling like we're on an island, or we're the only one applying and getting rejected, and you have to pick yourself up when you get those rejection notices. So I'm really excited to dive into this topic. So I guess, can we start with just some general insights on that, like broaden it, and then we can narrow in any topics that, especially if anybody has any questions that pop up.
So for all of us who've been job seekers, it's probably one of the ugly tasks I've ever done in my life. And it is, as you said, Jackie, it's very lonely. I say recruiters love you when they love you, and then you don't hear from them again. It's like, whoa, they love me, and then you didn't hear from them. I think the process of looking for a job, if you don't know the rules of the game, you don't even know how to play the game. And that's very hard. I think in the last 2 years, we've really become dependent on everything electronic. And so you don't get to see that person. So you don't have that human connection. There's a couple stats out there that 86% of all jobs are given through networking opportunities. And I reread something the other day, and it's really the second group of people. So back in the day, I'd suggest someone talk to Anthony, and then Anthony would maybe refer someone else. But it's that broad network of people who are really going to help you get your job, and you got to let the world know. So we'll kind of talk some more about that. But there's highs and lows. I mean, every day, I have a saying and use it at 4 Block. It's called spraying and praying. If you want to send out 100 resumes on 100 applications, go for it. You're going to maybe get a whole bunch of rejection letters. If you can handle that, go for it. But I would not do that because it's just not strategic. And people don't like when they work with me, and I'm currently working with one of my children, so that makes it extra difficult. But you have to figure out the why and the what. You know, everyone wants to work at Microsoft, Amazon, Starbucks, blah, 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 right? Well, why do you want to work there, and what's your what? And I don't know sometimes if it's the why comes first in your career search or the what, but I think they both have to be answered, and that takes some soul searching that most job seekers don't want to do. I mean, I can say I would love to do X, but one, is it my interest? Am I qualified? Is it a passion? You know, do I have the right aptitude? You got to kind of dig deep into your heart and soul and figure out if that's really what you want to be doing before you start applying, because I think good hiring managers and good recruiters can call BS really fast. You know, if you just want to go work at Amazon because it's a great company, then you better have all the other reasons why you want to work there also, because that's a commitment. And I just think you need someone to be there to pick you up on the highs and the lows, because it is ugly. And then for those of you who know this, you show 50 people your resume, you're going to get at least 120 different opinions and variations. And you're like, okay. So we know there's not one way to do a resume. I think in most cases, here's some really things you should have on every resume. Here's some stuff you should never have on any resume. And here's the middle. But you're going to get tons of opinions. I can't tell you what every recruiter in the world wants to see on a resume. So you're going to have to do your best brand. You're going to have to get lots of opinions and then own your career search. Because at the end of the day, it's about you. It's your brand. It's what you want to project. So if you're a graphic artist and you really think you want to have a graphic art, beautiful resume that doesn't make it through the ATS system, that's your decision. But you probably should have one that's going to get through the ATS system. So pick, like I said, pick people, and especially in the military spouse community, I always tell you, get out of your gate, find people who are not military spouses who can give you some really good, solid advice, because sometimes I use way too many little stories, but sometimes you start smelling your own exhaust. Oh, we can't do this because, or we can't, and you start festering the same old rhythm and stories. That you need to find people who have been there, done that. And there's a lot of military spouses who moved on to do many great things. Contact them. They got a perspective, but at the end of the day, people want to help in most cases. So find people who either have had the career path that you want or in the career that you want, and start all those great informational interviews, because they're going to give you the real life story. And sometimes I always like to suggest too, and we'll just pick on, because Anthony's here, if you want to know about Oracle, Anthony's no longer there. He might be a little more open to saying something if he was still working there. So sometimes that previous employer might be a big help if you want to get some other additional information. So, but don't do it alone. It's the worst. I mean, I have, you cry, you're happy, you think you have a job, you don't have a job, they offer you the job, then they rescind the offer. All of this stuff happens. I mean, companies right before quarters ending, if they have an earnings report, they might have jobs posted and they disappear and you're like, what happened? Well, because of earnings, they got to pull them back down because they no longer had the money that they thought for these roles. So it's a very fluid, crazy process. That's all I can tell you. So don't do it alone. Long-winded.
Okay. Anthony, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, doing it alone, that's an interesting. That's how I did it initially. I was like, just I'll do it all by myself. I'll do the 100 resumes and the applications, and it took much longer than it needed to be. It was actually just meeting with other veterans. When I got to Seattle is what took me over, like, to really figuring this out. So when I connected with people I was volunteering with who were, like you just said, Monica, they were already at an Amazon, at an Oracle, at Facebook. They're already there and they transitioned some time ago. So my advice came from them. And that to me is what kind of closed the gap in what I'd been doing. I've been trying to do this so long for myself, and I was somewhat successful, but I didn't have a reason to why I wanted to be there. And then after I met with some veterans, I was able to ask myself that, well, why do I want to work there? It's like, well, actually, the reason I want to work there is because I want to go learn what an end user needs to do in different data centers around the world. And then I want to take that and leave. So like I knew from the beginning, I didn't want to have a career there. I wanted to be able to learn that and take it somewhere else. And so when I started realizing what I really wanted to do, I knew I didn't want to go to Facebook now because there was no business there. They're not in the business of doing anything other than running that business. Where Oracle has a business function and there's lines of businesses and they impact different verticals. And so for me, it was like, that's where I want to be. Like truly that's where I want to be because I know I want to leave, but I want to leave with that information. So going back to doing it alone, for me, it was finding people through volunteer efforts. And I just happened to keep meeting people who volunteer who already had jobs. You know, they weren't volunteering to look for jobs. They were doing it to, add some more fulfillment to life. And those people I found to be the most open about what they were doing now and whether you should work there, or if there was somewhere else they were thinking.
Good advice.
Yeah. And I can echo that. I did so much by myself. And the one disadvantage that kind of came to mind when both of you were talking about that journey when I was doing it alone is it kind of makes my spouse be the support network for a really hard season. And that's kind of like he wasn't in that situation. So he kind of found himself always having to be the encourager and it's not like he minded that, but that is a lot to put on our support network around us when there are people that are experiencing all of that at the same time as you, where you could support each other and give that extra boost because they're going to have the greatest amount of empathy for what you're going through because they're going through it too. And then when you land somewhere, that celebration is so much more because you've kind of like, how much closer are you to the people who were there in the trenches when life was tough, and you walked through something together. And then when that celebration and things shifted, it was just, you had that ability to just be truly joyful in that moment, right?
Yeah, I think also having a spouse sometimes, if that's your only support, like you said, is a bit of a burden, but also how objective are they? And I always think if you can find those people, what I'm going to call coaches, then you have mentors, and then you have sponsors. So, that coach who gives you some good, solid advice, and then you have the mentor who's going to go deep and really be that brutally honest person. And then you have that sponsor, which at that point, if coach, you've done everything I can do. My job is then to put my name attached to yours with a company, with another person. And then at that point, I become a sponsor. So I think you need all different levels. And I think you need those through your entire career. I have a mentor. I have sponsors. I actually pay a professional coach to, make sure I stay in check with myself. As I tell my husband, I can't coach myself. I don't listen to my own advice, but I'm really good at listening when I pay for it. So if I'm listening and paying it, then I pay attention. But I think that's just good career advice, no matter where you end up, because you always need people to give you different types of advice, and it might not be your immediate family member.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I think I ran into a pattern again where I started business and I was trying to do it alone again. And about a year and a half, near that 2-year mark, I was undergoing a lot of unnecessary stress, maybe necessary, part of running a business. And I was sitting there, I was in Chicago at the time, and I was really, I was stressed. I was really not in a good mood. And I was like, what am I doing? I need to talk to someone. I can't talk to the people that I'm working with about this. So I reached out back to an old mentor of mine that I used to work for at Oracle. And he's been that very direct sounding board of like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like you're, and if he is my sounding board, when I have problems, I go there, and it's just like he is. The past 6 months ago is when he really, really helped me out. I just needed someone to tell me to shut up and like say some things that I just wasn't thinking about. And I was like, you know what? Thanks, man. Like I really needed someone to be very objective with me and say that. And now I talk to him every month, kind of the azimuth check. And yeah, there's never a time you don't need it, is from what I found.
One of my colleagues actually says that we should all have a board of directors in our life, and he really distinguished that as they're invested and they want to see you succeed because they're on your board, right? But the board of director will deliver that bad news too. So it's kind of like you need people, even if I do a LinkedIn post that comes across like not my brand, then I need those people who can call me on it and just inform me, because we don't see our blind spots, right? That's why they're called blind spots. So how do you find those? And I guess that's the next question then, like, how do you build this community? How do you find those people who can be vested, but also not hold back when you need to hear the hard truths? I mean, I think that's one thing that drew me to Anthony, is because he told me a hard truth right when I met him, because I did my elevator speech poorly, and and he was like, let me take a moment and mentor you right now. But like that resonated with me years and years later. I still remember that, and I still use that advice that he gave in that moment, where like, so he's kind of in some way that board of directors, I'm like, if something starts going sour with this thing, he could be like, hey, I feel like we're going the wrong direction here. But it's because we're vested, but he's not afraid to just call it like it is. So where do we find these people?
Well, first, I think you got to get uncomfortable. I think you got to be willing to talk to strangers. You got to be willing to talk to people who are not, go back to not behind the gate. They're not in your neighborhood. They're not your best friend. And where you get that, your network is much broader than you think. If you have, let's just go back, you've got your high school alumni, you might have your college alumni, you have different places you've worked, you have maybe a religious organization, think about, if you're military, think of all the bases you've been on. And goodness gracious, LinkedIn is out there. Be a little brave, connect with me, and I'm sure you connect with the other two. But connect, and then you get to mine my entire network. And you say, hey, Monica, this person has the exact job I want, what I want to be doing. Can you make the introduction? And I will always make an introduction if it makes sense. But that's how you're going to build your network. But you got to get a little uncomfortable, because you're going to have to talk to some strangers. You're going to have to let the world know that you're looking for a job and what you want. But I'm going to go back to, if you can't articulate the what and the why, most people may not have as much time for you as if you can really articulate what you want to do. Now, if you need that mentor to help you develop that, that's a whole different story. But your networks are much broader than you think. And I just reread the book, and I gave it to Jackie earlier. It's called From Passion to Paycheck. Phenomenal book. And, he's old school. Take a piece of paper, start writing down names. Who do you know? Who did this? Or maybe it's your favorite barista and you know that she is doing or he's doing something else. But it's amazing the network you have. Just don't think it's a professional network. That personal network probably will help you more than the professional network. But you've got LinkedIn, you've got 2 other people in this call who can definitely help you out. So don't be afraid. You're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to maybe do some homework, and I'll share this one. And it's someone who works at Microsoft. I had wanted to talk to this person for years, and I'm talking years. And I was scared to death. Finally, he said, yes, let's meet. We actually met at a restaurant, and I said, I only asked for 15 minutes. I said, I want 15 minutes of your time. I need to ask you something. I need to pick your brain. So we met at a restaurant, which that kind of tells it's a little longer call. But what I did, I took my little phone. While he was sitting there, I put my timer on 15 minutes. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I asked for 15 minutes. When the timer gets off, when the timer rings, and if we're done. We're done. You can say, thank you so much, Monica. Get out of my booth here and do your thing. And he goes, Monica, I didn't mean literally 15. No, I said, I asked for 15. If we want to extend it, great. But I was so uncomfortable. I swear I dug everything. I Googled his name. I memorized his career. I knew his military background. I was so prepared because I was scared. But I also did not want to waste his time. And I wanted him to know that I was a woman of my words, 15 minutes. And that's what I did. So that to me was getting out of my comfort zone and honoring my commitment of 15 minutes. So if you're going to do that, be respectful, because these professionals who are taking their time, you don't know where they're at in their head, and they're willing to give you some solid advice. But yeah, so I set my timer. So I still use it as a good example of, I didn't want to waste his time or my time. So
I love that. And go ahead,
really
Anthony.
great. Well, I was gonna say it's true. Like I reached out to this guy. What you were saying about looking at someone from their career side. If you see someone out in LinkedIn, out in the world, and you're like, well, I really like what they're doing. Like, I would really wish I could follow that path. I found this gentleman and messaged him on LinkedIn. He was asking for volunteers for something. And I was like, I signed up and I was like, hey, I'd love to be part of this. And I just kept volunteering for anything he'd asked for. We became friends over the years, but it was his mentorship that for years about understanding private equity, understanding things from different, starting a business and understanding how you would compensate new founders, how you would roll out different classes of stock. We've met so many times over the years that if it wasn't for what he's been able to tell me, he told me how to negotiate my offer at Oracle. Like he helped me so much, but it was literally a stranger on LinkedIn in which I was just like, hi, I want to be friends with you. Like it's so awkward. So I was like, well, let me just do what I think I could do. And I'm just going to help. You need help, volunteers? I got you. You need help doing this? I got you. And then that constant asking for him to help, ultimately I had a question I was going to ask. I was just going to wait until I, became a little more friendly. But yeah, it was uncomfortable. It was awkward, but dude to dude messaging someone on LinkedIn. And that became one of the strongest mentors I've had. And at the time I just got into tech. I was about to start working for Oracle is when I got in touch with this guy. So some years ago.
Like, I love the lack of anonymity on LinkedIn and how it can really grow networks too. And I have several examples. And if you don't know, if you're not aware of it, and maybe you're not on LinkedIn very much, when you comment on somebody's post, your network sees it. When they comment on your stuff, their network sees it, and you can actually find so many people. It by strategic. You could be strategic about it. Like, what are my target companies? What are my target goals? I follow a lot of product managers because Microsoft just kind of redefined all their PM roles as either technical project managers or product managers. And I was like, I have a new title. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Even though the job is a lot of the same, there is an industry standard that I should be learning. So I started following people who are thought leaders in product management and commenting on their stuff. And we have that access to true experts in fields who are giving away advice for free all the time. And you have the opportunity to build a relationship with them. Like how you can find celebrities and build relationships with them. It's fascinating. And that happened where I saw somebody speak back in 2015 at a conference I was in, and he got his start on LinkedIn forever ago. And I finally was like, I'm just going to reach out to him and see if he'll connect with me. And I said, I saw you at this event, and I really want to be more involved here. And I should have done this a long time ago. I hope you have room in your network for me. And he accepted it. And I was like, I almost fell over because I was just like, I'm a first degree connection to. It's Lewis Howe. He has a great podcast, by the way. He has the School of Greatness. If you don't follow him, and I was like, he just accepted me. Well, now I'm commenting on his stuff, and he's commenting back, and it's like I'm building a relationship with what I view as a celebrity in my world, right? And you have your people that you view as a celebrity. How often you get that opportunity in life to just participate in what they're doing and have them come and participate in what you're doing. And it was scary at first, but it's only scary the first few times. And then it starts, like, the comfort zone expands, right? Like, at first it's like this, and I'm terrified to post anything. I'm terrified to reach out to anybody, especially when I was unemployed, because it's like, well, everybody here is a professional. But that was me discrediting all the things I had done in life and not really being in touch with my own story, because I'm professional at the things that I'm professional at, like cake decorating, got that in my bag. but it was only it starts out like this, and then as you do one thing that's uncomfortable, you're like, well, that's more comfortable now. And then eventually, like, I reach out to people all the time that are pie in the sky people, and sometimes they accept and sometimes they don't. And it's okay, because you can then withdraw the request and try again later. So it's like there's so many opportunities, and it just have to kind of to go for it. And even if you mess up reaching out the first time and withdraw it, you have to have a 3-week cooling period on LinkedIn. In 3 weeks, they're going to forget you sent it the first time unless you actually did something truly offensive. So you can always go back and try again and refine the message and A/B test your own message. Like, am I getting more responses when I approach somebody like this or like this? And if you're not familiar with A/B testing, it literally is like 2 different type of experiments. So I'm going to try this form of reaching out. I'm going to try this form of reaching out and actually track which ones accepted and which ones didn't. And then you can be like, well, this is more effective. That's a product management thing, learning that. But it's your network and you can build it however you want. So.
Well, and using LinkedIn to have an introduction done for you sure does cut some of that scary part out of it, but you got to stay out of your comfort zone. Even when you're working and you're establishing your company, you got to push yourself, because that's how you're going to grow. And for me, my rock stars are authors. I'm an avid reader. So I like to reach out to all the authors who write books. And I love when they respond and we have a dialogue. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just a good reader. And, but you got to push yourself. And when you're uncomfortable spots is when you're going to really grow.
Mm-hmm. I think my goal is to have Brene Brown actually like just respond to some comment that I make on one of her posts. Like that would be the day where I was like, I have arrived.
Well, I do have one of the, you bring up Brene Brown, I'm just go a little off here. I'm a huge fan of hers. And I'm a huge fan of, if you haven't read any of her books, please pick up her books. I'm just rereading Atlas of the Heart, which is just phenomenal. I often go back and read books twice. And in many of her books, she talks about fit. And I always say in the career field, they always go, oh, you got to be a good fit here. You got to be a good fit here. I'm really saying you need to belong. I think work is more than fitting in, because I know how to fit in. I know how to change my haircut. I know how to look cute. I mean, I've worked in fashion. I know how to do what I'm supposed to do. But when I belong somewhere is when I get to show up as authentic Monica. So that might mean I didn't get a manicure last week. That might mean I'm actually going to grow my hair out, or maybe I'm going to let my hair not highlighted like a crazy woman when I worked at Microsoft every week. But I think it's more important to look for companies where you belong. And I know that's a hard thing to do, but you can do that through talking to people who work there, reading their annual report, reading their mission statement. I mean, I could give you 5 companies I will never work for in my entire life. If they pay me $1 million a year, I'm not working there, because I don't believe in what they do and how they do it. But where you belong is when you know you can walk in every day, be authentic, be you, is when you're really going to shine. If you're just trying to fit, I'm going to use the square peg in a round hole, right? We know that doesn't work. And I see people sometimes adjusting who they are to have the job. And if you can find peace and love in that, great. I can't. I would be another more anxious than I always am. So that would not be good. But please pick up every one of Brene Brown's books, read all her podcast, or listen to her podcast, go read listen to our YouTube videos. The woman is unbelievable. And I took Dare to Lead, her course, and that was over the top. So if you need some great courses to take, it's a phenomenal course.
Yeah. I love your point about where can you belong. And I see it just like on the team that I am, when I can show up to a one-on-one with my manager and just say, I'm struggling in this area, and it's something maybe just personal, so that she knows where I'm sitting each day and what's going on in that background. So I can show up and be, professionally present in a meeting while she knows this girl's falling apart over here in this area of her life. But it's that comfort level. It will take, if I were to leave the team and company that I'm at, because I see that culture built, it would have to be something phenomenal. Like, I mean, a job written for me and my passion heart, like, program manager of mentorship or something. But it's just because it matters, that sense of belonging where you are and feeling like you can be truly authentic with it would wear down on me constantly if I felt like I had to pretend where I am. And so are there tips you have maybe to finding, and this may even be pivoting a little bit off of what we're here to talk about, but kind of finding that cultural fit? I know you mentioned like reading about the company, about what they do. I mean, for me, it is like, what industry are they in? What are they trying to do for the world? That's important to me. Do you have any insights on?
Yeah, I'm going to actually circle back. It's those informational interviews. It's talking with people who have or currently working at those companies, and keep those questions concise and short. But you're going to learn a lot about those companies and the people. Now, company cultures do shift. Please note, large companies have many cultures because within different teams, there's a different culture. And then sometimes you get a new manager who then changes the culture also. I always say managers come and go, but the true culture of the company does remain. So this too shall pass, but you really have to spend some time. Once again, it's all this prep time up front, and I'll circle back. It's the why and the what. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And then put your heart and soul into that, and you'll get great information from the people that you reach out to. And that's probably the best way of doing it. I think too many career seekers are seeking a title, or they are seeking a salary. And those two things work in life for a certain amount of time, but it's hard to sustain that. And if you just want to have a sexy title, well, then great. You can have a sexy title and hate your job. Or maybe you don't have a sexy title and you love your job. That's good. Or maybe you want to, as Anthony, go down that entrepreneur route. I mean, there's lots of options out there. And I think we get very narrow-minded when we don't do our research. But once you do your research, the whole world opens up to you and you get uncomfortable. You start talking to people like, whoa, I didn't even know that job existed, or that's something really cool. But we only know what we know. And unfortunately, and I'm old, so back in 1980, when I graduated from high school, I mean, there was, I don't know, I'm going to say there was like 12 industries and 6 titles, and a woman who worked was just starting. So, I had what I would call very limited resources. I only knew what I knew, and I had no idea the whole world was out there. So now it's at your fingertips, obviously with the internet and all day long. I say just continue to know who you are, research who you are, spend some time with you, and you will truly make a better employee for someone else. And then you will love your job, or you'll, become that entrepreneur, but you got to spend some time on you. And I didn't spend that early career time on me. And I wish I would have, because I'll use this. I never managed my career. My career managed me. And I wish I could have managed my career. I did not do a good job of that. I think I would have done things very differently, but hindsight. So.
Wow, that's golden. Anthony, did you have anything to chime in?
Yeah, it's such a good point you're making about chasing salary and title. I think I need to be this title and I need to be this title. Like, this is just the evolution of things. And then one of the realities you're going to encounter is your compensation does not mean your salary, your title is not correlated to your compensation. And that I'm a business owner now. If I wanted to make more money, I could go back to Oracle. If I wanted to be happy with my life, I'd stay where I'm at. Having the control over what I'm doing, what we're doing, if we're going to pursue something or not, we're going to hire someone, all these different things are in what I'm doing now. But if I wanted to make more money and have less responsibility, I'd go back to Oracle. And I had a great time there. It was wonderful. But for me, I wanted something, what you were saying is like, it's me. Like, this is how I talk. This is, I have tattoos on my arms. I have tattoos on other parts of my body. I don't like to wear long sleeve. There's a lot of things that are ours, that we get to build in this organization because what we want to do. And the title, again, it's irrelevant. I could go have a lower title and make more money, but it doesn't mean that's what I wanted to do. It's just something that can be achieved. So like when you're out there looking for what is it you're doing, it's like, screw what the title is. What are you doing? Like, what is the role? Who are you working with? What do you get to do? And then what does that company do? And, this is something that I advise a lot of folks on. I don't think I would get a lot of personal fulfillment if I worked for a company that, maybe just made snacks and toys for dogs. I do think dogs are awesome. I think you should give them all the snacks and toys they want. But I don't think my life would be very fulfilled if I knew that's all I was doing is building, all my impacts were going towards that. So, but maybe you are someone that thinks dogs for snacks and dogs, like I got to do this. Maybe that's something big in your life. Then I don't relate with that. But what I relate with is putting infrastructure in the world, knowing that the things I'm doing are connecting millions of people, that are allowing tech companies to be able to host their services in an entire new state. Like those things, it makes me happy. Like those are things I like to do. So you got to find the thing that makes you happy. And if it's snacks and treats for dogs, then that's your thing. And you want to be able to feed every dog and cat there is in the world. But I don't. I want to do infrastructure. So that means I need to put myself in places and not chase opportunities that wouldn't put me here. And I had a brief stint in software development for 2 years, and I still like building things. It's like it just wasn't construction; it was just building something else. And there's a lot of satisfaction behind having nothing, creating it, and saying, "Yeah, look what we did. We built a whole service, just like 16 people." So yeah, don't chase the title; chase the scope.
Does anybody in our audience have any questions at all? Feel free to drop it in chat. I do like to make sure that you have an opportunity to voice any of those. Otherwise, I will keep going because like we're gonna run out of time before we run out of Monica insight. So for sure. Anybody?
Hello, everyone. I apologize. I was a little bit late popping
okay.
in, but I've been enjoying the conversation so much because I feel like I'm at a point in my career where I am feeling stuck. I'm a military spouse. My husband's been in for 25 years, and I've been with him the entire time. And every time we move, I feel like I need to chase a title, or, at this point, should I be making more money in my career? So the funny thing is I'm a career coach. I feel like the lost career coach because what I'm doing right now is kind of like exactly what Anthony just said. I'm making the donuts. It's something that I have a passion for it to a certain extent, but it doesn't give me the fulfillment that I was hoping for. So what are some tips that people possibly have that, I don't want to chase a title or money, but, besides writing everything down, I've kind of gone through that. Maybe if you're a military spouse or you just have some insight from somebody who used to be a mom and coming back in, like I have all that in my background to where I just feel very a little bit lost. So any insight I would definitely welcome. Thank you so much.
That sounds like a whole different session too. So we're gonna have to put that on the topic agenda one day.
But I'll chime in a little bit. I think, and through life, there's periods that sometimes this job and this role is what I was meant to do. And I always go back to, could I have handled a certain job and a certain career with 3 little boys running around my house? I don't know if I could have handled it. So was Project X a better option for me at that time? And, today, I don't think I could handle 3 little kids running around if I was a grandmother, had work full time. I don't think I could do that. So I think within the, getting unstuck is going back to spending more time on, what do you really want to do and who you are and where you want to get back and what is that passion, and can that passion, if it's making donuts, doggone it, you can make donuts and eventually maybe open your own bakery and maybe you're baking for all events. I don't know where that takes you. But I think when you're stuck, it's a good chance to go look in the mirror and go, okay, why am I stuck? And kind of do a little more self-reflection, because it's easy to go down a path and then realize I need to shift. And that's the cool thing about life. You get to stop, change, go backwards, do whatever you want. And don't ever let that title define you. And I'll never forget when I left Nordstrom, I think it was Blake Nordstrom or Pete, one of them pulled me in the office and go, are you going to be okay? Well, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. He goes, Nordstrom's been part of your life for 24 years, whatever. I said, you know what? It's a job. I am me, and I know I can do other great things, and I'm going to do other great things. I thank Nordstrom for growing me and developing me all these years. But at the end of the day, don't let anything ever define you, because you get to define yourself. So if it's a lot of time people chase that title, and that's okay, maybe during certain periods of your life, and I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I think there are sometimes you should chase money if you can, because there are what I'm going to call your key earning years. Companies don't seem to love you as much when you're, 65 than when you're, 28. So you want to make sure that, what's right for you in this time. And I always say, like, a mom's a big job too. And if that's the job you want, then that's a good job. I mean, I have a lot of respect for full-time moms. So you kind of figure out when the time is right. So maybe your stuckness is maybe the time isn't right, or maybe you just need to shift it a little bit.
Perfect. That was, kind of like what I needed to hear. It's like something, but when someone else says it, it just comes out better, because yes, you are right. I have 2 teenage boys, and my husband still has 4.5 years left in the military. And so, I'm kind of worrying about those peak earning years, because I do see it in my company where everybody that's coming in is like 15 years younger or younger. And it's just like, that fear of, what can I do? But you're right. Like right now, this works for my family and I don't need to listen to all the noise out there. Just kind of go with what can I do in the moment? And then later on, maybe I'll have other opportunities, or I will.
You will.
Yes. Thank you, Monica.
I had a very practical exercise that I did while I was in the Military Spouse Academy. Is I actually just took everything that I did, volunteering, previous. Did I just mute myself? I hope I did. Did I?
No,
Okay,
you're
all
good.
right. I touched my headphone and I heard a beep. I was like, oh, great, here I go. I did volunteer activities, the odd jobs that I had, the companies that I started, the, cake decorating and personal training, and this little contract that I did to build a website. And I just kind of inventoried all the tasks and I called it my own personal task resume, that each of those jobs took. And everything, volunteering, all of it. Grocery shopping, I put that on there. And then I started writing, like, what do I love about it? And what do I hate about it? And what I started seeing is the things that I love always surfaced, because Jacqueline always shows up, right? And Jacqueline loves what she loves. So I started realizing that I love helping others. I love bringing a smile to people's faces. And that gets me through the part where I'm breathing and I'm like, I'm not going to strangle someone else's kid at this volunteer opportunity that I'm at, which was the thing that I didn't like, is I don't like disobedient children. But it kind of helped me see what kind of jobs would Jacqueline show up best. You do not want to put me on phone support ever, because I am terrified of the phone. I do not like it. I like body language. I like video calls where I can see at least one other person nodding or smiling or anything. So don't put me on phone support. It would be a disaster. I'd be unhappy. You'd be unhappy, because I would start taking it out on somebody eventually, because I'm stressed out all the time. But it really helped me see not just what kind of things I like, but also my own story, and how each of these things grown me as an individual, that I can now claim and bring to an interview, to a new job role, to any of the things that I'm pursuing. And it gave me a lot of clarity, and it might just be worth 30 minutes of your time to just sit and like Monica was saying, self-reflect. But it was one of those where writing it down and circling things really helped that self-reflection speed up, I guess, because it was like, wow, I literally wrote the same thing 4 times on this in 5 different things. I wrote that's what I loved about it. Maybe that's me. So
no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And one of the most enjoyable times I've ever had in my career, I'm not sure, Monica, if you remember me, but we used to work together. You do. We worked together.
UW.
One more time?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, UW Tacoma, and then also working with Camel Commerce on a panel for the USO, and just being able to be out there in the community helping other people. And I loved it so much. And then we got orders to Tokyo, which wasn't bad, but I miss that. When I do that self-reflection, it's like you said, certain things come up, and it was those times. So, but thank you both. I greatly appreciate your insight and information.
We wanted to add something to Andrea. It's interesting being a military spouse, the fact that you're trying to reinvent your career every time you get a new duty station. And one of the things that I've encountered is when I got out of the military, I moved a lot. And my wife, I love her, she definitely moved with us. But I was chasing something more. I was chasing those peak earning numbers, because I knew I needed to get to a certain location before I guess the rest would be figured out. And along the way, you know, my wife changed jobs. She worked for Amazon, and that turned out to be, you know, it is what it is. It helped her career, but it was definitely not a wonderful environment that she found herself in. And she moved again, found another job, and now she works for Oracle. And one of the things I learned around the way is her role now exposed me to a bunch of different options, in that you can stay remote. You could be in a role that is more consulting, which you are, I'll use the term education consultant, in which every single software that exists out there, they need people within the company to teach the customers how to do it. So from a consulting basis, you're teaching the customer, like your career coach and your coaching, you're teaching that customer, hey, this is how you do your AR/AP within, you know, Oracle NetSuite, or this is how you do whatever in this particular program. It doesn't matter where she lives. She could move anywhere. And so we were looking for something that, again, I'm super ambitious. I moved to Chicago on a whim, you know, after we started the business. It was like, all right, cool, moving, and moved the family from Texas to Chicago in the winter. During COVID, you know, it was a wonderful time. But that role can go anywhere. And it's allowed her to, one, be home. I don't work at home as much. You see, I'm in this little office here. And it doesn't matter. When we go to California for vacation, she's still working. You know, it's just taking her laptop with her. So there's opportunities that exist out there, Andrea, that you can, one, be remote, one, interact with customers, learning different lines of business, and two, you're not working 60 hours a week. If you have passion that exists outside of that, now you can go pursue that. You can go learn things and still be making good money, good benefits, solid career stability, and still go pursue all those things out there. So I'd say, as a military spouse, I would strongly recommend opportunities that fall into what is called an education consultant for any company, Salesforce, Oracle, anyone that has a consumer-facing product. They're going to need people to teach the customers how to do it.
Wow. And, see, that's even with years of seeing different job titles and thinking of different things, I have never even thought about myself doing something like that. So that's why opportunities like this are important. So I greatly appreciate you sharing that. And I'm going to be looking into it.
Yeah, you can also, like when I said I did that crazy career, like task inventory, I actually, the other day I said, you know, I said I like to make people smile. What happens if I search jobs with the word smile? And yes, I got a lot of dentistry opportunities, but I also started seeing these posts that were like social media manager, you know, and it was like, and they are looking for people who will actually delight their customers through what's posted on social media. And it was just kind of one of those where I'm like, how weird that the word smile could bring so much. So if you put coach in there, advocate, I know I was very tempted recently by a job in Microsoft that is a diversity and inclusion program manager. So it helps build diversity and inclusion in the company. And I'm like, whoa, cool. It's like if you put advocate in the job search bar on LinkedIn, I can almost guarantee you're going to have, I think I did it yesterday with somebody. It was 1.2 million job posts for somebody looking for an advocacy role. Now, some are like talking about the company and you have to weed it out a little bit. So make sure you use an advanced search. But it was just like, out of 1.2 million jobs, I'm sure the person I was mentoring yesterday could find something with what she's already done in all of her customer service facing roles that would translate into those skills. So just kind of poke around and see what's there. Find your keywords and then search, and you might be shocked how much it's just like.
Yeah, that sounds kind of fun too. So
it was just exposed me to jobs that I did not know existed. So universities are out there looking for coaches that are helping undergraduates figure out what they want to do, things like that. And you can search based on remote. So when I turned it just to remote, it was still 134,000 jobs. So there's so many. The one thing I'm thankful for the pandemic on is how much the remote opportunity is now available for military spouses that companies would not even consider it before. So grab those jobs and then be noisy for military spouses so that we keep this remote world.
I think we need to be noisy for everybody. This is a good way for people to work and have lives. I think if we've learned anything else, the work week must change. My craziness is, for those of us who raise children, why is it the work week was 9 to 5, school was 8 to 3? Mm-hmm. It was designed that we could never have a job. That's what I've decided. But we figured it out. We can overcome. And yes, Andrea, I actually going to introduce you to somebody after this call on LinkedIn.
Oh,
She does
wow.
educational stuff, so she'll be great.
Thank you so
And-
much. Really
Yeah, and we are getting close to time, so I do want to encourage everyone to please drop your LinkedIn profiles if you have that, or any social media if you're that you want to connect with people. That's one of the reasons I do this, is to help connect each other. So if you, again, I'll just volunteer Anthony and Monica. If they're like, our networks are open, she already volunteered, so our networks are open to you. So every time I add a follower, it's like, wow, that's another person, or a connection. It's like, that's another person that is the potential to help someone else. And like we've mentioned many times, people want to help. They may not always know how. So you approaching them with clear asks, and you'll just be surprised where it can go if you let it. All right. So we are getting close to time. Any closing thoughts? We had about 100 questions that didn't even scratch the surface. So, like, by all
Those of you, if you're all military spouses, please know there is unbelievable programs for you guys. Take advantage of all of them, all the VSOs that have things for military spouses. I meant even the TAPS at DOL program has a new program for military spouses that is 100% online. Take advantage of that. On ONET, there is a great assessment to get your Holland code. So if you want to find out what your unique interests are, please take that assessment. It's phenomenal. And there's a couple other assessments on ONET. I believe there's 3 really good ones. So I would, like I said, start figuring out who you are. It took me till I was 60 before I even figured out I was an imposter and doing crap I shouldn't be doing. And I wanted to just be me. So my last 30 years of my life are going to be just me. So look out, as my kids are scared to death of mom just saying what she wants. When it's really important to me. But there's great resources, and I just don't always think they get to the military spouse. I think the active duty person seems to have a lot of information. They forget to hand it to their spouse. So go on, take those assessments. They're really good assessments.
Yeah. And I think any of us, if you are specifically a military spouse and you're in the job search, please reach out individually, because there are so many organizations. I actually printed out this crazy map it's like a career skill map of the United States, and it's huge, things I don't know about. But if you're like, I'm in this state and I don't know what's available, then I will go look at that map and be like, it looks like this is available. So yeah, like, please use this in that way. All right.
We'll just say,
Yeah.
in closing, I guess because I mentioned that a few times, if Oracle is any bit of an interest to anyone, I would encourage you to go to LinkedIn and just search Oracle and military spouse. And every post that you see that comes up is going to be from a recruiter or some program manager that's involved with that organization, the recruiting side, and just connect with them. Mindy Jaffer is when you'll see, Chris Spencer is when you see all these names that come up, and they all work in the veteran recruiting / military spouse side. Because I feel like Oracle is one of the groups that has acknowledged that this isn't a nice thing to do. This is a business related decision. Like, it just makes sense. So I don't think a lot of groups, I think they're trying to thread that needle of this is a nice thing to do, when a lot of us know, like, no, this is strategic. This is what's going to give you an edge by utilizing an underused group of folks around the country.
Thank you for chiming in, Lewis. You just said great points. And I just want to spend a minute here thanking everyone for attending. Thank you, Monica, for sharing such insights. We're going to have to just have you back at some point, because we just didn't scratch the surface here.
Whenever you want me, I'll be here for you. You know that.
Yeah. And then anybody here who's in the job search, when you land, like, by all means, let's join as a guest speaker at some point and share your insights and your story, because you just never know where that ripple, the water drop ripple thing goes. So